So you want to buy a new gaming laptop, but if you do, you might be missing out on big performance improvements from next-gen hardware. On the other hand, you don't want to get stuck in the trap of waiting for the next thing to come out, because then you don't actually have a laptop that you can play games with and have fun. So what do? I'm here to help you decide if it's worth waiting or if you should just buy something now. But first, if you are looking to buy now, you can get deals on both laptop and desktop PCs with the Intel Gamer Day sale at HP, who have sponsored this part of the video. Their Labor Day sale is running now, but you can stack savings with these coupon codes. With Intel's Core i7-12700K processor, HP's Omen 45L gaming desktop is ready to run whatever you throw at it. If you're after more portability, HP's Victus gaming laptop starts at $750 with Intel's Core i5-12500H, but both can be customized and upgraded with the sponsored link below the video, so check that out for these limited time sales. Let's pretend that new gaming laptops with next-gen hardware are coming out tomorrow. Makes sense to wait and see what's coming, right? What about if it's instead a week away? Still probably worth waiting unless you urgently need something right now for school or work. What about if the new hardware isn't available for a month or a year? My point is that clearly it would be useful to have a rough idea of when to expect new hardware when making this decision. Now, for the last few years, both new CPUs and new GPUs for gaming laptops have been announced at CES in January, an annual tech event right at the start of the year. Now, this could of course change, but I think it's a good idea to look at previous release cycles to get an idea of what future releases might look like. So let's take a brief look at CPU launch history, followed by GPUs after. Intel first announced their 11th gen Tiger Lake H-series mobile processors at CES 2021, and that they would come out later in Q1, though they didn't launch until a bit later in May. Likewise, AMD also announced Ryzen 5000 mobile processors at CES in January 2021 as well, and my first video featuring a Ryzen 7 5800H came out in the same month, so a much closer release date to the announcement. So we got new processors for gaming laptops from both Intel and AMD right at the start of 2021, and then this also happened again this year in 2022. Intel's 12th gen and AMD's Ryzen 6000 mobile CPUs were also both announced at CES 2022, so again right at the start of the year in January. Intel 12th gen laptops started becoming available to buy far earlier than Ryzen 6000 though. Laptop GPU release cycles also seem to happen each year, though usually we get some kind of a refresh in the year between. At my first CES in 2019, I saw the legendary Leather Jacket Man announcing RTX 20 series laptop GPUs, which included gaming laptops featuring Nvidia's RTX 2060, 2070, and 2080 GPUs. Desktop 20 series graphics cards already came out the year before though. Then these were refreshed a bit over a year later with the RTX 20 Super Series in April 2020. Now, the current RTX 30 series laptop GPUs were announced 2 years after the 20 series at CES in January, and these initially included the RTX 3070 and RTX 3080, with the 3060 coming a month later, and then the lower powered 3050 and 3050 Ti many months after that. Again, just like the 20 series before it, 30 series desktop graphics cards came out before the laptop versions. Then CES in January 2022, so earlier this year, gave us the refreshes of the RTX 3070 Ti and 3080 Ti. So just like the Super Series, nothing groundbreaking, just a little update. Based on these past release trends, I'm expecting that we're going to see RTX 40 series laptop GPUs, Intel 13th gen laptop CPUs, and AMD Ryzen 7000 laptop CPUs at CES in 2023, so just a few months away now in January. If the past is anything to go by, I'd expect RTX 40 series desktop graphics cards to be announced and released before we get 40 series laptops. Based on history, normally I'd expect to see the RTX 40 series desktop cards anywhere between now and the end of 2022. There have been some rumors about 40 series being delayed though, whether that be due to supply constraints, Nvidia just wanting to sell more of their excess 30 series stock, or something else. The reason doesn't really matter as the result is the same, but that could push the launch of 40 series back. Maybe we don't end up seeing the desktop 40 series until CES. And if that happens, it's hard to say whether or not they would go ahead and just release the 40 series laptop GPUs at the same time. Because if the 40 series desktop graphics cards end up getting pushed back, then maybe the same thing will happen to the laptops. Or maybe we'll just see them both at the same time. Now, that said, I think there is some pressure from laptop manufacturers for Intel, AMD, and Nvidia to try and align their releases. Otherwise, those laptop makers like your Asus, MSIs, and Lenovo's have to end up selling weird configurations. When RTX 30 series graphics came out, for example, I had at least one laptop that had a 10th gen Intel CPU paired with it, but then 11th gen launched like a couple of months later or something, so that company had to significantly discount their 10th gen models. So yeah, I think from the perspective of those companies, it's better for them if they can get new CPUs and GPUs all at the same time and just offer a new laptop model. 2022 was kind of a magical year in that specific regard, because we got both new laptop CPUs from AMD and Intel, as well as new Nvidia graphics all at the same time. What I'm trying to say is that if you can get a brand new laptop with both new CPUs and GPUs, it's a bit more of a compelling upgrade option compared to a laptop that just has, say, only the CPU upgraded but not the GPU. Now, even if all these announcements perfectly line up again in 2023, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll actually be able to buy a laptop with the new hardware anytime soon. Some companies might just take an existing laptop and do a drop-in replacement of the CPU and GPU and call it a day without doing any tuning or many modifications. But then other companies, like Lenovo, at least from what they've told me, prefer to hold off and do more testing and tuning to get things right for new hardware, which apparently is why the Legion series took so long to come out this year. Take my Legion 5 with Ryzen 7 6800H CPU that I just bought, for example. Review coming soon, by the way, so make sure you're subscribed. That Ryzen 7 6800H CPU was first announced in January at CES 2022, and we've only just now been able to buy the Legion 5 with it. I don't think I even got my first 6800H for testing until about 2 or 3 months ago. So yeah, like 5 or 6 months after the announcement at CES. That could just be supply constraint issues because, as mentioned, I did get the Ryzen 7 5800H in January 2021, same month as the announcement. But yeah, my point is, Lenovo announced those Legion series laptops at CES in January 2022, and we're only just now able to buy them. So based on this, even if we pretend that Nvidia launches an RTX 4060 and Intel does 13th gen and AMD does Zen 4 Ryzen 7000 in January, it's possible that we might not actually see laptops with those parts for a few months after the announcement, which means you have to wait longer. And it also potentially means if you are waiting for, say, that Legion 5, then it could be a year away from now, as we only just got the 2022 model. So say you wanted a Legion 5 with RTX 4060, maybe you end up waiting until July or August 2023. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it's basically what happened this year, so there's no real reason it couldn't happen again. You don't want to be stuck waiting forever. Now, although we tend to get this new laptop hardware announced right at the start of the year, generally speaking, the best sales of the year tend to be over the holiday period time, like Black Friday and November. And this year in 2022, we're looking at November 25th. Prices have already started lowering over the last few months compared to last year or the year before, where we had crazy high prices due to part shortages, miners, and scalpers. So the Black Friday sales of 2021 and 2020 weren't too impressive compared to what we've had in the past. I mean, it makes sense. If companies are selling everything they put out, they don't really have that much incentive to offer crazy good sales. But this year, it sounds like we're starting to get a mixture of excessive supply with lower demand. So hopefully that will result in some good sales coming up in November, and that could be the perfect time to buy. Now, you could of course wait for that next-gen hardware to come out, but not actually buy it. Say gaming laptops with RTX 4060 come out. Well, you might be able to pick up a 3060 laptop for even cheaper than any time you'd find it this year. I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen, but yeah, generally speaking, when there is a new generation, companies want to get rid of their older stock. So even if you don't buy with a sale this year, you could potentially buy early next year and still get a pretty good deal, as well as probably having a better idea of what to expect from that next-gen hardware by that time. And with that in mind, this is the part of the video where I speculate and have my best guess at what's coming out next year. So take everything I'm about to say with a huge grain of salt. It's based on rumors and educated guesses. Without a whole lot of concrete information, it's about the best we can get when trying to decide if we should buy now or wait for this mysterious new magic hardware. Earlier this week, AMD confirmed that there's Zen 4 desktop lineup would max out with 16-core 32-thread processors, so the same as the last few Ryzen generations. There's no news on laptop versions just yet, again probably at CES in January. But so far, AMD's laptop CPUs go up to 8 cores and 16 threads. It's completely possible that we just get Zen 4 Ryzen 7000 processors that are also 8-core 16 threads at a maximum. But after Intel's big increase in multi-core performance with 12th gen, I'm kinda doubting it. AMD will probably want to try and stay competitive there, given they're the company that kicked off the whole core race and made Intel give us something more than quad cores. That's just what happens when there's competition. There are rumors about Zen 4 laptops going up to 16 cores with Dragon range, but there's not much information on that just yet, other than apparently AMD has said they'll have the highest core and thread count ever for a mobile gaming laptop CPU. And given the fact right now Intel's top-end laptop processor offers us 16 cores with 24 threads, and the fact that AMD doesn't seem to have any interest in doing P and E cores, that's probably going to be a 16-core 32-thread laptop CPU. But again, just my best guess based on the information available. I don't know if you remember, but when Ryzen 5000 Zen 3 based gaming laptops came out, it was kind of a big deal. They were very competitive with what Intel had available at the time. Now this year, AMD's Ryzen 6000 is Zen 3 Plus, so it's just a bit of a refresh. And compared to Intel 12th gen, honestly, it's kind of behind unless you care about battery life or performance on battery. And don't get me wrong, those are important when it comes to laptops. But purely in terms of raw gaming performance when plugged into power, Intel 12th gen just dominates Ryzen 6000. Zen 3 Plus was only a small boost, but with Zen 4, I'm expecting bigger differences. On the desktop side, AMD were claiming that their 6-core 12-thread Ryzen 5 5600X beats Intel's Core i9 12900K in gaming. So if these gains also translate to Zen 4 gaming laptops, we could potentially see a nice boost in gaming. Now from the Intel 13th gen Raptor Lake rumors that I've heard so far on the desktop side, it sounds like the i9 13900K, or whatever they're going to call it, is going to have an extra 8 E-cores. So the top-end i9 desktop processor from Intel will go from being a 16-core 24-thread processor up to 24 cores with 32 threads. Now, while that sounds amazing if you do need multi-core performance, when it comes to laptops and gaming, honestly, I think the i7 stuff that Intel has from 12th gen with 14 cores, 20 threads is plenty for most games. The fact is, most games just aren't going to benefit from that level of cores and threads, so throwing more at the problem isn't going to help too much. I'm not saying it won't make any difference, but I think there are more important features, like higher IPC, higher single-core turbo boost speeds, and more cache. And these are both things that Intel 13th gen and Zen 4 processors will be offering us next year. Now, we don't know for sure what Intel 13th gen will bring, but based on AMD announcing Ryzen 7000 earlier this week, I can't imagine they're gonna wait around too long. So basically, on the CPU side, we're probably gonna get more cores and threads next year. Just don't expect the gains in gaming to come from the core and thread counts, especially when we consider that more cores need more power to run. We've already seen that a 16-core Intel laptop needs a TDP of 85 watts and higher to actually perform better compared to a 14-core chip. Stretching things further with a 24-core laptop might not be a great idea, as more cores need more power to run, and gaming laptops are still subject to the same amount of thermal headroom as before. It's easier for those desktop parts to get more performance gains by turning up the power limits, because they've got more space for cooling. But when it comes to laptops, you're kind of more limited. So yeah, again, that's why those other factors like higher IPC, more single-threaded performance boost, and more cache will matter more in games. Honestly, in terms of gaming, I think the big performance improvements are going to come from the new GPUs and not the CPUs, especially considering how popular high-refresh 1440p laptop screens have become this year. More GPU power matters a lot more than CPU power at these higher resolutions when running modern games at high setting levels. Now, on the GPU side, as mentioned, Nvidia will probably have their highly anticipated RTX 40 series announced early next year. And honestly, I don't really know what to expect here, but I really hope that the 4060 has 8 gigs of VRAM. The 3060, 2060, and 1060 have all had 6 gigs, and that's done okay until now. But yeah, as mentioned, those higher resolutions are definitely becoming more popular, so I think it makes sense to give the 4060 at least 8 gigs. I wish Nvidia would just do what AMD do on the Radeon side. There's always plenty more VRAM when it comes to Radeon graphics on the laptops. Like, take AMD's 6600M for example. That competes with the RTX 3060, yet the 6600M gets 8 gigs of VRAM. But I digress. I have also seen the rumors of higher RTX 4090 series graphics cards turning up the power limit to crazy high levels to get their performance boost. Now, if that's true, again, it might work okay in a desktop PC, as long as you don't have a gigabyte power supply, but there's only so much you can turn up the power when it comes to the smaller laptop form factor. You're just more limited in what you can do there. You would have to significantly improve the power and carry around a super heavy power brick if you wanted to boost it by some crazy high amount. So when it comes to 40 series laptops, we're not going to be depending on boosting the power limits. It'll come down to other factors such as architecture improvements and faster memory. But don't worry, I will do some more desktop versus laptop comparisons with 40 series as soon as I can. Of course, there will also be new AMD Radeon laptop GPUs as well. We just don't know much about these yet though. All AMD has said in their official event just a few days ago was that RDNA 3 will have 50% better performance per watt compared to RDNA 2. So that definitely sounds like a good performance improvement. And although there weren't a whole lot of AMD Radeon-based gaming laptops this year, generally speaking, they did actually perform quite competitively with Nvidia's RTX 30 series. So I can't wait to see how RDNA 3 competes with RTX 40 series when it comes to laptops. Again, it's great to have competition because we win by having more options to choose from. We were also already meant to have Intel's Arc graphics for laptops by now as well, but that hasn't happened, and the desktop cards seem to be delayed indefinitely. Based on what's already been reported from channels like Gamers Nexus, it seems like there's heaps of driver issues with first-gen Arc anyway. Even if they do perform well and are priced competitively, personally, I don't think I would go for first-gen Arc simply due to stability reasons. Trust me, when things start crashing randomly and you've got no idea what's going on, the frustration just isn't worth any price. Of course, things could absolutely improve in that regard by the time Arc laptops actually launch. If they launch. I just don't think that I'm personally ready to take that dice roll on first-gen hardware. Now, I wouldn't really be making a purchasing decision based on all these rumors and guesses, but it's really all we've got at this point when trying to decide if there's something coming that's worth waiting for. An important question that you need to ask yourself is, do you actually need a new laptop? Do you need to upgrade? If you've got nothing or something that doesn't work very well, then yeah, you'll probably want to. You'll probably want to think about getting something sooner rather than later. But if you've still got something that works perfectly fine, then you're much better off taking the wait and see approach. Unless maybe you just really like having the latest and greatest. In which case, I guess eventually you could sell what you have and move on to next gen. But generally speaking, I almost never recommend upgrading a laptop between single generations, as the performance differences usually aren't that big. If you've already got RTX 30 series graphics, it's not as if it's suddenly going to become crap the instant 40 series is announced. Of course, future games will start to be developed with that newer level of hardware in mind, but that takes time. It's more of a slow, gradual change. There's definitely no need to upgrade if you've already got something that you're perfectly happy with. But if you did want to upgrade a bit more down the line, I suppose you could start saving for Black Friday sales next year in November. I think that would probably be a pretty good time. Nvidia should have their high, mid, and low-range laptop GPUs out by then. And of course, holiday period means sales. At that time, we might be looking at an RTX 40 series refresh at CES 2024 in January. But based on the past, that might just be something like RTX 40 series Super or just TI options. So it's probably not going to be as big of a jump compared to going from 30 series to 40 series. As I always say, buy now if you need now. If you don't, then you can probably wait. Fact is, we're probably going to have announcements of new laptop CPUs and GPUs in 4 months at CES 2023. That's not too long to wait at this point, but it could still be a few months after that until we actually get new laptops with that new hardware. If you're perfectly happy with current gen hardware, then it could be worth waiting till November to get those Black Friday deals. Just don't fall into the trap of constantly waiting for the next best thing, because there's always going to be something new just just around the corner. That's literally how tech works. Personally for me, I've already got hardware that I can live with, so I would wait and see what those announcements had in store in a few months. To me personally though, the difference between waiting for Black Friday sales in November and those announcements in January is pretty small, so I'd probably just wait, given 40 series sounds like it might be pretty good. Check this video next if you are looking to buy a new gaming laptop now. I went through the best 5 gaming laptops that I've tested in the first half of the year, so I'll see you in that one next. Or if you are going to wait, then make sure you get subscribed for my future laptop reviews and comparisons.